Hey everyone, Mrs. Norris here. So today we are moving on to our next unit, which is Unit 3, Google Sheets. So with this first activity, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our first spreadsheet. So before we do anything else, can you please pause this tutorial and set up your desktop the way that you see mine here? So on one screen in one window, I have this tutorial showing, and in another window, I have my drive. So I am able to watch the tutorial as well as complete the steps at the same time. So please pause this tutorial and set up your desktop the way that you see mine here. All right, so this is lesson 3.1, master field trip list. And in this activity, we're going to be creating our first spreadsheet. What I want you to know through these different lessons, these different units, is how to use Google Apps to create, collaborate, and share documents effectively. You should understand that knowing how to use these productivity tools correctly are going to make you more marketable in the future. So, for example, trying to turn in assignments for a high school or college course might be a little bit easier. Going into an interview might make it easier for you to get a job that you are trying to get. So these are important tools to have, not just now, but in the future. What you're going to be doing is creating a spreadsheet to include a list of the field trips for the upcoming school year. So that's kind of our motivating factor. Let's look at our overview, okay? The Middleton High School Student Council is planning for the upcoming school year. To increase student involvement, they decide to offer monthly field trips to a variety of destinations in the area. Your job as the Student Council Vice President is to organize the field trip information in a spreadsheet so the trips can be approved by the school principal. So let's look at our new skills. We're going to learn how to resize a column, insert a column, use autofill, format data, center align data, use undo and redo, share a spreadsheet, and close a spreadsheet. Likely the shared spreadsheet is not something we're going to have to worry about as in past units. We're going to name our Google Sheet, not Doc. I'll fix that by your first and last name, and then lesson 3.1. Here is the text that we're going to be copying in our Google Sheet. And then we're going to submit our work by downloading it as a PDF and submitting through Canvas. So let's get started. In my drive here, I have my Norris CAD 2020 folder. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And then I have my Sheets folder, and that's what we are working on right now, My Sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And obviously it's empty because we haven't done anything with this folder yet. So I'm going to click on New. And this is a sheet, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Sheet, and a new Google Sheet will open. And before I do anything else, let's change the name of our document to what we have here. So your first and last name, and again, I'm using my stepson's first and last name, and then lesson 3.1. And what's great about this is that it will save automatically when you download as a PDF with that title, so I know whose document it is that I'm looking at. All right. So a spreadsheet, as you can see, is usually used as a way to organize information. We'll learn throughout this unit that you can alphabetize information. You can use autofill to automatically fill in information. There's a lot of different ways to use a spreadsheet besides just for numbers. So we have here columns, and columns go up and down, and they are labeled by the letters of the alphabet. As you continue down, when you get to like Z, if there were more information here, it would be A, B, B, C, C, and stuff like that. So again, columns go up and down, and they are labeled with the letters of the alphabet. The rows go from left to right, and they are labeled by numbers. So left to right, numbers. All right. So up and down, letters, columns, left and right, numbers, rows. Now you put these two together, and what you see, these little boxes are called cells, C-E-L-L. Cells. So this cell is A1. It's in column A, row 1. It's the first cell. You can also see here that it's labeled up in this spot as well. So if I click over here, this is C 7, cell C7, and then let's click all the way down here to something random. We have G30, and you can see that it gets a dark gray as well to help me further identify what that cell name is. So I can look here, dark gray and dark gray, G30. I can look up here, G30, or I can just know that column G, row 30 is G30. Let's go back up to A1. Okay, so that's the basics of a spreadsheet. And again, oftentimes spreadsheets are used for organizing numbers, but in this case, we're going to use the spreadsheets to organize text. Okay, so just to make sure that I'm in the right spot, I'm going to go back to my drive. And here I have my Sheets with my first lesson inside that My Sheets folder. Okay. So we're going to be entering data into a spreadsheet. There's several different ways to move between the cells. So we can use our arrow keys. So I'm just using the arrow keys on my keyboard. Okay, we can use the enter key or return key. That's another way that I can do it. Okay. Or I can use the tab key, which is above my caps lock on the left-hand side of my keyboard. So if I go tab, but with tab, it only goes from left to right through the rows of the cell. With enter, it only goes from top to bottom with the column of the cell. And then using your arrow, you can go in all directions. Okay. So those are the different ways to move around. So we're going to go ahead and type the first thing that we have here. You can see A1, we have master field trip list. So I'm going to go ahead and type master field trip list. Okay, go ahead and type that for me, please. And if at any point you need to pause to move on because I'm speaking too quickly, please pause so that you can stay up with what I'm working on here. Okay. Now, if I hit return, you can see that it will automatically take me down to the next cell, which is what I want it to do. So as the picture says, we're going to skip A2 and go down to the next cell, A3, and start typing what we see in our text to copy image on Canvas. So I'm going to begin typing this stuff. Okay. And then I'm going to use the enter key. Okay. And I'm going to keep typing. Okay. So at this point, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause this tutorial. And when you come back, all of this information will be typed and we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, so at this point you have typed all of the information, but what you may have noticed is, first of all, in column A, some of our text has been cut off, and in column B, some of our text is flowing over into column C. So to fix that, what we're going to do is this. If I move my cursor so that it becomes blue, so the line between A and B is now a dark blue, okay? And then if I double click, it will automatically widen that column so that it fits all of the text within that column. So it automatically widened it to the longest set of information in that column. So to show you again, if I hover until the line turns dark blue between A and B and then double click, it will automatically resize the data for me in that column. I'm going to do the same thing for column B. So I'm now move my cursor between letters B and C. When the cursor turns blue, then I double click. And now it's made it longest for the Agnes Johnson Performing Arts Center. Okay. So now let's move on to our next step. So what we're going to do now is we're going to insert a column. So I'm going to click on A1. Okay, so go ahead and click on A1. And there's a couple of ways to do this. I can go to insert column on the left, and we want to insert a new column on the left, or I can right click and insert a column. But the problem with that is it doesn't define if it's on the left or right. So if I know for sure that I want it to be on the left, then I'm going to go ahead and, click on my first one, A1, and then insert. I know I want the column on the left, so I'm going to go ahead and click it there. Okay. So now what we're going to do in this column, you now see that our master field trip list title is in column B. All of the event information is also in column B. And what we're going to do now is we are going to use autofill to very easily add dates to our information. So I'm going to go to cell A3 and I'm going to type month. Okay. And then I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to type September. And then in the next cell, October. Okay. Now, when you are using autofill, you need to have at least 2 or 3 bits of information within your cells. Otherwise, you don't create a pattern. And that's what you want to do, is create a pattern. The computer needs to see that you've got a pattern going that it wants to replicate. So what should happen with autofill now is that the computer should recognize that I'm trying to do a list of months. Now, I could click on just October, and then what will happen is it will fill in, actually I filled it in correctly. It used to be that it would change it to all October, but maybe it's been fixed now. So let's try that again. Okay. So this is an easy way to do this. I'm going to select September. I'm holding down my mouse, and October. And then I'm going to go down to my bottom right-hand corner, and you can see that my cursor has changed to a little plus sign. Okay, so my cursor has changed to a little plus sign. If I click and drag that plus sign, it fills it in for me. Now, I filled it in prior, and that was because I did have the September there, so the computer knew what I was doing. If I didn't have the September there, then it would have filled it all in with October. So let me show you that one more time. So I've written September and October. I'm going to click on September and then click and drag my mouse to select both September and October. Then I'm going to move my mouse to the bottom right-hand corner until it turns into a plus sign. And then I'm going to click and drag down, and it fills in the months for me. That is my autofill tool within a spreadsheet. So go ahead and fill that in using autofill. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just some simple formatting the data information. So I want to bold cells A3 to AC. So here's A3 and here's AC. So I'm going to click on the first one. My mouse is still hold. You can see the red circle lets you know that I'm holding my mouse, and I'm going to drag. Okay, and I want that to be bold. Okay. And then the title of my spreadsheet, I'm going to click. Okay, and I'm going to change this to also be bold. And I'm going to change the font size to 14. Okay, and again, we have that issue where it's being cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cursor between the B and the C, and then double click, and it will make it long for the same width as my longest text, which is now the title. Okay. And then I want to center align this data, although it's going to be kind of difficult to see because the lines are so close to the beginning and end. So this line is super close and this line is super close, but we're going to center align it anyway. So I'm going to select that cell, which again is bold and 14, and then I'm going to center align it. Barely moved, just an inch. Okay. Now let's say I decided I don't really like that because it didn't really make a change anyway. I can use undo just like with any other Google Doc activity, or I can use redo to make it go again. So I do want it to be center aligned. So I want to make sure that I clicked redo on it. So again, bold, 14, and center aligned. Okay. So we've resized all of our data. We are going to proofread to make sure that everything is correct. Okay, let me make sure that we've done everything that we need to do. All right, now you've done this before, but just as a reminder, if you want to share it with me, then you would go to share, and then you would type my name, and you would share this document with me. That's not something we need to do this time. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go to File. We're going to download as a PDF document. Okay. Whatever it says here to be, if it says landscape or portrait, that's not what really matters. What matters is it's just going to be one page. So I'm going to go ahead and export it. Okay, and you can see that it's a PDF on my desktop here. So if I open it, there it is. So once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Canvas, and I'm going to submit this document to be graded, just like I've done with every other activity.